Hey everyone, I know it's been a long hiatus since the holidays, but as we're gearing up for the end of the season, I'm happy to present a few more sessions. And today I have an incredible singer, songwriter, and music producer, Giavonna. She's going to be hanging out, talking to us, telling us about her single, All Your Fault, which is streaming now on Spotify. And since this recording, she has actually released a few other songs, so do yourself a favor, go check her out, listen to her music, and tune in for a great session. Welcome to IPA Sessions. Welcome to IPA Sessions, a podcast for independent artists. As always, I'm your host, Kay Jacob, and today I have a special guest on all the way from North Carolina. I have a singer and a songwriter here on the sessions today. This is Giavonna. Say hi.
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Hey, thank you for taking the time to come on today and just talk to us about what all it is that you do. I know that you have a couple of singles out right now. In fact, I apologize, I forgot to mention you have a single on Spotify and other music platforms streaming right now called All Your Fault, the Afro Mix. And it's really good. And I noticed that you have a couple extras out there as well. But you don't just make your own music, you create music for others, correct?
Yes, I do.
Cool. Well, tell everyone out there a little bit about yourself. Who are you and what all do you do?
So I'm a 27-year-old singer-songwriter. I've been writing for about the past, I want to say, 6 years since I was 21. I didn't really start really taking it. Well, I took it serious at 21, but I didn't start really honing on the craft, really networking and trying to get connected in with people till I was about, I want to say, 25. I bought my first set of equipment. I remember it was March. I want to say 2022 March. I saved up my money. I bought a laptop. I bought my own laptop. I bought a microphone and I started recording, getting my ideas out there, reaching out to different singers. And then a year later, I picked up beat making. So alongside of singer songwriter, I've been doing that. I released two singles last year, so All Your Fault and Hold Me. All Your Fault. The Afro mix was really a marketing tool because when I was pushing myself and marketing myself, I was getting a lot of attention overseas in like Africa. And
That's
everybody knows
awesome.
Afro. Yeah, everybody knows Afrobeat music is extremely popular in Africa. So I was like, you know what? Let me just give something to them because they're showing me the most love. You got to cater to your fans.
Right? Yeah, smart. And that's awesome. Like you're doing this all on your own and you're marketing already, putting yourself out there. That's incredible.
Hmm.
Great job. And those two singles that you have, that's actually your music that you made and you sang for yourself. And it's all you, correct?
Yes, they actually were originally, well, All Your Fault was originally a demo. There's an artist by the name of Justin Love. I was going to pitch it to him or pitch it to artists like him because at the core of who I am a songwriter. So I mainly that's all I wanted to focus on. So when I originally started writing music, I was always thinking of what artist would this be a good fit for? Who would this be a good fit for? What does this sound like? Who does this sound like? So All Your Faults started out as a demo. And then I kept sending it out to my friends and family, just feedback. I was like, what do y'all think about this? And they were like, you got to release that. Like, they heard my
Yeah.
vocals on it. And they're like, you got to release that. Like, don't give that away to anybody else. Release that for yourself. And I kind of try to like keep my music clean and have like a positive message. And like this one kind of tells a story on like a girl who kind of got in this relationship, got her heart broken, and now she's off in the world with this broken heart. And you just never know how that person is, what phase of life they're going to carry on after that type of heartbreak. And that's kind of like what that story is telling, because it's kind of like, if you dumb it down, people would think it's like a women empowerment, like men bashing type song, but that wasn't my intention at all, you know?
Art is interpretive. Your intentions were good and what you put out there. And, I love the song. It's really beautiful. Your voice is beautiful. What got you into this? Was it the singing that came first or songwriting? Can you take me back in time to tell me how y'all got started?
So I've been singing since I was about six. I've been in church choir since I was 6 years old until about 17. I'm 27, so that 10-year time span, I went to college, focused on college stuff. And then I was like, you know what? I got my degree, my 2-year degree at a community college. I ended up not going to pursue the 4-year degree, and I was going for business or psychology. And I was like, you know what? I've always had a knack for writing songs because that's what I originally wanted to do when I was 18. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go be a songwriter. And then, life happens. You go to college, you
Yeah.
get filled up with all these different ideas, different thoughts. And I always knew I wanted to do something centered towards music, but it wasn't until I just graduated and got my degree. I was like, you know what? And that was around 21. I was like, you know what? I'm going to focus on songwriting. And then the more I learned about the music business and songwriting, it was more like, well, you got to be able to do this, you got to be able to do that, which pushed me into artistry because it's you have to wear a lot of hats. You
Oh
can't
yeah.
just be a lyricist, you can't just be this, you can't just be that. You have to be multifaceted, you got to be a content creator, so it was just me. That's what kind of pushed me into artistry, was that, and then getting the feedback from the demo and it being really supported. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it because my whole thing was to be behind the scenes. I feel like there's more longevity in being behind the scenes than being on the forefront. Because people fizzle out. You're hot, then you're not. They hate you, then they love you. So my intention was never really to be an artist, and it's still mainly the focal point is to be behind the scenes. But artistry is just something fun, just something to do to add to my arsenal.
Well, you're really good at it, and I love hearing that you want to actually be more of a songwriter. Is there any future projects in the works? Any new demos that you're trying to put out there soon that you want to try and work with other artists or get to other artists? I guess.
So right now I'm focused on just building community. I'm tapped in with a really good community. I don't know if you're familiar with the songwriter Rico Love, singer, songwriter, artist. Rico Love. He wrote "Motivation" by Kelly Rowland. He wrote "Sweet Dreams" by Beyonce. Like,
Oh wow,
got Grammys and all that
that's
stuff.
impressive. Yeah,
Right.
I
So,
should be familiar with him, but I don't believe I am. But I should be.
but he's got a group of people. He's hosting like tours all across the. He's hosting a tour all across the United States where he has songwriters, producers, and artists all come together and they collaborate in different sessions. I haven't got to attend a session yet, but he also hosts Zoom calls and they're for free. And we just go on there and talk all about music and share music. And he's just
Oh,
been
that's
very
cool.
supportive. Yeah, he's been very supportive in that. So I've been tapped in with them. So like I said, my biggest thing is building community, networking, because you never know when a song is going to take off, who's going to hear your song and be like, oh, this would be great for SZA. You never know. You never know who's going to hear it, what ears are in the room. So my
It's
biggest
true.
thing is staying connected and building community and networking. I've already got like a ton of demos. Some of them need some more work, but it's all a work in progress. You just never know what's gonna pop, or if you're in a room, who's gonna add what to what. So, or if it's gonna be completely changed. You may have an idea, and then it go from one thing to something else, and it be even better than what you originally started with. So I'm open to all of it.
I love it. I'd love to pick your brain real quick. And I say real quick, but it might take a minute. But I'd like to know what your process was like for the creation behind All Your Fault. Like you said, it started off as a demo, but then obviously you decided to sing and add to it yourself. Can you kind of just take me through what your process is like with starting with songwriting and then creating the beats and then laying down the vocals, putting it all together, so to speak?
So I usually start with the melody. I start with the melody and I listen to different songs to pick up on melody. So the song sounds like a song. Because anybody can come up with a melody, but it's not going to sound, it might not always sound like a song. So I completely wrote All Your Fault out as a cappella melody with just the lead vocal. And I recorded it in my voice notes on my phone. Voice notes is really handy if you have a guitar or you have an instrumental. You take voice notes, sing over the instrumental, and just get a rough vocal copy over that. And so mine just happened to be a cappella. I didn't have any music, but the melody was there. And then I had the influence from Justin Love. So I had that as a reference point. So from there, I sent it off to a producer. Shout out to Isaac Music or Isaac. I forget what his name is on Instagram. It's either Isaac or Isaac Music. But shout out to Isaac. Anthony Church had actually connected me with Isaac, and he said he's a dope producer. Just follow up with him and see what he can do. So he sent me the original version, the original production for All Your Fault. and I that was the more slowed version of it. And then the Afrobeat version, like I said, more of my audience was from like Africa, so I wanted to cater to them and cater to that sound. So that process, I actually kept the original beat and I sent it to a Nigerian producer by the name of Extreme the Producer, and he just put an Afro beat, like he just like souped it up.
Worked his magic. That's awesome.
Yeah, and so that's how the Afro beat version came about, and that's been my most streamed song to this day.
Yeah. Well, shout out to Isaac. Shout out to Extreme, the producer,
Yeah.
and of course Anthony Church, friend of the pod. He's been on here before. It's how we got connected, and I love that your networking skills are hard at work already. So that's awesome. What is a good tool that you use when putting everything together? I know that you told us in the beginning you saved up and you got your laptop and your equipment and your mic and all that. But is there any good programs that you recommend?
Yes. So I use my phone. I use voice notes on my phone often.
Hey,
Voice
phones
note,
are amazing technology. They're right at your fingertips. Take advantage
exactly.
of that.
hmm So that I record on my laptop sometimes. I did that for about a year. And then I found the beautiful creation known as BandLab. And I have been using BandLab because BandLab has all these vocal presets and stuff you can do with your vocals. It's
That's
essentially like
cool.
recording, right? It's like recording in a studio, but using your earbuds or your mic from your phone. And I've been using that recently. I didn't use that for All Your Fault. But as far as going forward, because you got to set up the microphone, you got to set up the laptop. It's
Right.
just my phone. I can pull the app out. I can get my ideas down. It's just faster, quicker, more efficient. Um, so I've been using BandLab. I'd probably say BandLab, voice notes. Those are probably my main go-tos if I'm jotting down ideas, or even if I want to record. I've recorded some stuff on BandLab and it's come out really well. So
Yeah, I mean, it sounds great. And I think that's amazing that you're taking advantage of the technology you have at hand. So anyone that's listening, that's, wanting to write and create their own music too, just use your phone, use what you have at your advantage. The technology's there. You don't have to go and get super impressive studio style. You can be creative, and it's the word innovative.
right,
So I think that's
you have to
awesome.
be very innovative.
Yeah, especially if you're an independent artist, it's a financial strain because we are putting most of the money in ourselves. You invest in yourself, and that's something I wanted to ask you about. Do you feel that financially? I know that you're really getting started on this, and things are finally, really starting to take off. Creating a fan base, like you said, you have a lot of fans in Africa, and you're getting that fan base. You're obviously trying to grow a fan base here in the States. Your marketing, your networking, you're meeting amazing other talented producers that are helping you out. Um, do you feel that the finance that you've put into yourself with buying your equipment and what you need, including phone bills, do you feel that that finance is starting to pay off for you? That you can really see a strong career coming out of this, or at least see some kind of value in it for yourself?
Yeah, I definitely want to stay independent for as long as possible. Now, if a label came to me and they were offering me the right number amount and I can negotiate in my contract certain things like I can record where I want to record. If I had free will basically and I could move at my own pace and just basically do what I wanted to do in my contract, then yes, I'm completely open to signing to a label. But as far as like me putting my own money into my music, I'm all for like the grind. Like I always tell people, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yes.
So it's definitely been paying off. I've been using a lot of ads, and that helps to reach people. And just paying for production, it's just all coming out of my pocket. Now, one thing I do want to touch on is to not sleep on. Russ talks about it all the time, where you get your credit up, you go to a bank and you can take out a loan and then essentially use that loan to fund the business. And if you're paying for that the rest of your life, it's okay because eventually, if you invest correctly, you can take that loan and, make your music do 10 times that, make 10 times off that 50,000
Yeah.
if you invest it correctly. So I think I would tell independent artists, don't sleep on, like, if you're really, really doing this, get your business in order, get your credit straight, and get a loan from the bank because you never know what you could qualify for. And that money, you're investing thousands of dollars here or your own money. Why not you not touch your money? and you essentially use that, and you may be paying off that loan for the next 20 years. But I mean, just think of what you can make on top of that. It's just could go a lot further if you get a loan from the bank and use their money instead of touching your own, you know? And I
I,
think a lot of artists just skip over that, and they really need to like tap into that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and it's certainly a good suggestion, especially for anyone that has decent credit. Some folks like myself, I have poor credit, but that's because I've made mistakes in the past with a loan. Like you were saying, be smart about how you invest in that. I was not. But I wish I was, because certain things that I do now, it's like, man, if I could just get a $10,000 loan, I could really help advance a lot of stuff that I want to do. Unfortunately, I'm not qualifiable for that. But if you are, you could be smart about it, and that money can go a long way to really helping set you up and get you where you need to go. It's a great jumping off point, because unfortunately in this world you do need finance to motivate, and well, sorry, you need finance to push yourself, to push your work out there. It's just a fact of life. But I really appreciate you sharing that, and it's a really great insight. So Giovanna, I'd like to ask you now, you've shared with us your process on, songwriting, and that's really your passion behind everything that you do. Obviously you have a very talented, gifted voice for singing. That's something else that you shared with us, like how that all started for you. Take us through this world of beat making. That's something that it sounds like you kind of started recently. Can you go into that for us a little bit?
Yes. So going back to a little bit of what I touched on earlier, um, when I was freshly starting, reaching out to different music creatives, like people that have worked in the industry, like they were like, "You've got to be more than a lyricist. Like, unless you have a hit out already that you wrote, if you're starting out and you don't have any major placements and you haven't built a buzz for yourself on social media, like your following isn't massive or anything like that, you need to be doing something else because when you do go to get signed or you do go work for a company, um, you're more of an asset to them, to their business essentially. Because everybody, in business in general, you get hired based on, like they say, like, what's your work experience? What all do you bring to us? Like, are you certified in Microsoft Excel? Do you have management or leadership like
Hmm.
credentials? So it's essentially like that, but in the music business. So I dove into beat making just because I wanted to add more to myself as far as asset wise goes. And I've just always been interested in it. I've tried it before and it just wasn't coming together.
Hmm.
And so I got on Band Lab and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to go for it. And I just started playing with it. And eventually, after a time, I started, I want to say May of last year, June, July, May of last year. So it's been about a year and some change, and I
So
just
this is
started
really
really,
fresh to you.
yeah, I started playing with it, and they've gradually grown because at first it was sounding like just anything, but it was still sounding cool. Like I was still getting compliments on what I was doing, but I was like,
Yeah.
I need this to sound more like a song. Like if I were to have somebody sing over this, or if I were to have somebody rap over it, what what would be the ingredients to put into this? So I started looking at Troy Taylor. He's known in the R&B world. He actually is known for putting Trey songs on. He did
Okay.
he helped catapult his career. So Troy Taylor is a producer, songwriter, no, all of that. And he was like, if you really want people to sing or rap over your beats, he said they need to have structure. So it can't just be a loop, although you can sing over a loop, you can rap over a loop. But he
Right.
said, make sure there's either an intro, a verse, a chorus, just structure to a song so there's a complete distinction between the different sounds in each part of the song. So when an artist hops on it, they can tell, how to flow with it lyrically if they want to write over it. And as me being a songwriter, I can write over it and they can just sing over it. But just giving it structure and have a clear distinction. So that's been my evolution of beat making and kind of why I got into it.
Well, and I liked what you said, because I was curious, and I didn't want to interrupt you. But do you feel that as a songwriter and as someone who can sings, you understand melody? I mean, you recorded a song a cappella, which means that's music. There's a melody there. There's a tune to it. There's a sequence, a setup. Did that help you a lot with your beat making, since you technically do understand how a song should be? You just don't have the instruments. Did that help out with a lot of your beat making, or was it something completely new for you?
It I'd say a mixture of both because the way I approach songwriting versus how I approach uh, beat making, like in the songwriting world, if you're trying to write a hit, with the exception of a few people, because there's been songs that are just vibes that have broken through the mold of what a traditional hit record or a popular record is supposed to sound like. Because the
Right.
formula for a hit record is either intro or first verse, pre hook chorus, second verse, pre hit chorus, possibly a bridge, chorus, and then maybe an outro. That's typically the structure. Now you've had some artists that have broke through, like you had her. She had the song
Yeah.
Focus, and that didn't fit the mold of a particular structure, but it still cut through. And it was like number one in the world, not just the United States,
Because
but the
it was
world.
different. Yeah.
Right. So you have certain songs now it's kind of different to where it doesn't have to necessarily fit that, but on average when you what people are accustomed to hearing and what they're accustomed to listening to, that's the song structure that they've heard for years. So that still works traditionally, although it's branched out into other things. So as far as beat making goes, you still want to follow that structure, but I've heard songs that have been made over loops and that are still have a cult following. Like you got rappers that rap over loops and they essentially don't have any structure. And it's still like it might be their number one song. So beat making is kind of like taboo. I mean, there's still definitely a structure you have to follow, but it's not as like specific as songwriting, if that makes any sense. You still have to follow something, but it's not
Right.
super specific like with writing songs. If you're
I was just
trying to like make a
sorry.
hit record. No, you're fine if you're trying to make a hit record per se.
Yeah, I was gonna say, with what you're saying, there's a structure. In film and TV, we have what we call the formulaic writing. Everyone knows what sitcom is. With sitcom, you know everything that's to be expected. It's formulaic. You know where the hits are. I mean, there's even a laugh track where you're like they're laughing when they shouldn't be, but that's the formulaic style. So I feel like in the music world there is formulaic writing. There's formulaic music, but I think using that structure but trying to be innovative and create something new from it, change it, flip it on its head, that's the direction that indie artists should be pushing themselves, because you don't want to just put out the same thing. It's like a remake. We don't want a remake. We want something fresh and original. uh, and I do think that, I think remake is probably a bad analogy for the music world, because covers can be amazing. Covering a certain song with your take on it. In music world, I love covers. In the movie world, please don't touch my film. Leave it alone. But in the music world, I love when people take a song and make it their own, where it's like, I know that song. I love that song. This is a really good take on it. So I think that's cool with like how you broke down the formulaic structure, everything that I wasn't aware of. So I think that's fascinating. And I wanted to ask you too. You have a song, I believe it's "Hold On." I'm sorry if I'm getting the title wrong, but I think it's called "Hold On," right? That you're single.
Hold me. Close.
Hold Me. I'm sorry, Hold Me. So in that song, I heard a piano. Now, do you play actual instruments at all?
No, I don't. That's the funny part about Hold Me was um I had a songwriter that I was in connection with, and he's actually a Grammy nominated songwriter. He's written for like all these different people like K Michelle, T Pain, Kevin Gates,
Hey,
Jacob
all right.
Lattimore. Like he's in the industry. And he was asking me, he was like, when are we gonna work on a song again? I was like, I don't know, but we can do it. Like it can happen. So
Right?
because I've been in touch with him for so long, he was like, we got to get a song together. And I was like, okay, for sure. So I reached out to my producer friend. And the crazy part about it, I didn't think about it, but the guy that writes songs, he produces too, but he charges. Whereas my friend, we've been working together and it's been on like a barter basis. Like you do this, we'll do this. And we just kind of collaborate that way, everything free. So I
That's
reached out to my
amazing.
friend, shout out to Mark Way Abyss. And I was like, hey, I need I need something smooth, something simple, nothing too much, something I write a simple melody over. And so he sent me that record. Now I don't think he plays the piano, at least I'm not sure, but he sent me that record, and then that's how that came about. So I actually didn't produce the track. Actually, at that time, I wasn't producing yet. So
Oh, okay. So you were
I mean,
just a singer.
I was a little bit, but I wasn't to the point that it would sound like that.
Got you, got you. I was just it's a pretty song. It's very lovely to hear and listen to, and I was like, "Man, that's not a beat, that's an actual piano." Because sometimes I have friends that they play actual piano, and then they do stuff with their keyboard, and they flip, to make beats and certain things. So it's like you can always tell the difference when you hear, like, an actual piano and then something that's been synthesized. But I was like, "That sounds like a real piano." It was really pretty, it was very lovely. So I was just curious if you played instruments at all.
Oh, yeah. I don't.
But
I wish I did.
hey, we're just taking a quick break. Hope you've enjoyed the conversation so far. Giovanna was kind enough to let us play her song "All Your Fault," the Afro mix, right here on the sessions. So do yourself a favor, give it a listen, and go check it out on Spotify and all of her other music platforms. And look forward to other music coming out soon.
You make a good girl go bappy on her worst behavior. No turning back, boy, you can't save her. And she's a savage, and you know it's all your fault. She's not the same girl from when you got involved, and now you're paying the cost. Shouldn't have been heartless, no. You broke her heart and turned her cold. Who would have thought that someone so special could walk away and never look back now? And now you're hurting cause it's all your fault. I know you're not the type to run to, but for some reason she chose you. She was new to love and you stole her heart. You were too good at playing your part. And not once you thought you would ever fall, and now you lost it all. Shouldn't have been heartless, no. You broke her heart and turned her cold. Who would have thought that someone so special could walk away and never look back, no. And now you're hurting cause it's all your fault. That it would take such a toll. Who would've known that two hearts could've broke? Who would've known that it would all crumble? I hope she still knows that she is so special. I know you're not the type to run to, but for some reason she chose you. She was new to love and you stole her heart. You were too good at playing your part. And just like that, she's gone forever, without you, living based off of you. And I will never know where that's gonna lead her. Now look at this. Look at what you've done.
That was "All Your Fault," the Afro mix by Giovanna. Thank you so much for taking a moment to listen. And now back to the conversation. Hey, but I like the peek behind the curtain. That was really cool. Giovanna, I really appreciate you coming on today. You've been great to talk to. I love this peek behind the curtain, so to speak. I'm getting to see the Wizard of Oz at work here. All the cool stuff that you do, seeing how, the writing, being a lyricist and a beat maker all comes together as someone who wants to do what you do, basically being a legit producer. You are a jack of all trades. That's what you have to be in this industry. So I really appreciate you sharing your journey. And before we get into the fun questions, I just want to ask you, is there anything that you'd like to share with us before we move on? Do you have anything that you want to bring up or talk about?
I think we touched on a lot of stuff, so I think we can move forward to the questions.
All right, awesome. Well, my first question for you is, as a singer and a songwriter, what has been the biggest challenge that you've had to face? And it may be something that you either overcame it and succeeded, or you might still be dealing with it. But what has been a huge challenge for you as a singer and a songwriter?
I would say two things. When I have ideas, them not being executed fully to the way that I want them to be executed. Like if I send something off to a producer and I'm like, I want it to sound like this, and then them coming up with a completely different sound, different from what I've asked them to do. So it's like I feel like sometimes the ideas don't come to fruition the way I want them to. Sometimes you work with them because it still sounds good, but I feel like sometimes when you have ideas, because when I wasn't beat making, I still feel like I'm still very like intermediate in that aspect. I still reach out to producers, so I feel like that when your ideas don't come out how you want them to come out sometimes, and people have their own spin on things that's completely different from how you intended, that
Right.
can that can be a little frustrating. And then just getting people on board, like when you're trying to collaborate and do things together and get everybody on the same page, it's just collaborating, whether it's you're trying to write a song together, you're trying to do something for sync, like writing music for TV and film. It's just different artists move at their own pace, different writers move at their own pace. So it's just hard getting people together and getting people to stay focused because everybody kind of moves at their own time.
Right. It comes back to that structure that you were talking about earlier. And that's part of why you need the structure so that you can prepare for those things. Cause it's going to be a challenge getting everything in its place. I wonder though, would you say sometimes you maybe get a happy accident out of it? Like Bob Ross, the painter, says it's a happy accident. You can work with it. It's not quite what you want it, but it's pretty good.
Yes, I actually had this record that I wrote, and I said this is what I wanted for it. I wanted something like fun, very a little risque, a little edgy, but just fun, popish R&B-ish. And they sent me something back that was different from what I had, the beat as far as it goes. But the crazy part about that is I recorded it and just a rough draft. And I sent it off to family and friends. I was like, well, what do you think of this? And I had tons of records that I had written that I sent off to people. And this one has gotten the most positive feedback. So I'd say that's
That's
probably like
awesome.
my happy accident. I even told people, like, that's your hit record right there. Like, that's the one that's going to take off. So I was like, wow. And the one that I didn't intend, because like I said, most of my music is clean, and I was being a little edgy with this record. And just to take a stab at it, and people gravitated towards that. And I was like, I've written so many beautiful records, and y'all like this one? Like, come on, man.
It's crazy how it works, but that's how it goes sometimes. Speaking of crazy how things turn out, you've been doing this for a while. You've been passionate for the last 10 years for sure, even longer with singing. And of course, in the last year, you started adding beat making and really getting into the producing world of music. What is something unexpected that has come up? It caught you off guard, and perhaps it's something that you had to learn right then and there in that moment. What is something unexpected you faced?
With beat making, like I said, when I went into band lab, it was like I had to learn everything, like, because I was getting frustrated because I was like, how do you cut this down? How do you edit it? How do you fade out, fade in? Just little stuff. And it just took me to just playing with the little tools, Googling. And then finally I got it to down to where my beats sort of, because at first it was like it had just an ending, but it would just stop right there. Like I learned how to control the volume, different stuff like that. Transitions, like when it goes from verse to chorus, just adding maybe like a transitional sound in there to kind of differentiate, like this is going into the chorus or this is going into the next verse. So I'd say it's just different things like that. I wouldn't say I had to learn it on the spot necessarily, but I did have to. It took a lot of just going in and just practicing, googling, and trial and error.
Yeah, good old trial and error. That's how it goes. But I like that you adapted with the unexpected. It was something that caught you off guard, but you just said, "All right, I'm going to adapt," and you make it work. Part of your happy accidents again. What comes out of it. um,
Right.
I want to talk about the hard realities that we have to deal with. It's a fact of life. It's not an opinion. This is what it is. You cannot change it. And as a singer or songwriter, what has been a hard reality for you? Something that you've just had to accept and embrace to deal with it. Maybe you found a way to work around it, but it's a part of it. It's a hard reality that you just have to accept, basically.
Uh, Family and friends are a lot easier to impress than music industry professionals. Like, and it's
Yeah,
not so much trying to impress them, but I feel like sometimes it's your friends and family just trying to keep your encouragement, just trying to keep you
yeah.
encouraged.
The
So
love
I
is
don't want to say
strong.
it's like fake positivity, but it's like they're just trying to keep your hopes up, just being really positive about everything. And then you send something to like a music executive or an A&R or somebody who works in the industry, and they just rip you apart from like.
Yeah.
And so
The
it's like,
criticism you need, though.
right. And so I mean that's been very helpful, very instrumental. Even though like some of the songs I've written, I'm like, y'all really feel this way about it? Like this is a good song. Like, but at the same time, they've been doing it for quite some time. So I do take heed to it, you know.
Yeah. Well, you should. That's how you grow and improve. I just love though that the hard reality for you is accepting the love and support of your friends and family. But that's true. As an artist, it's good to have that support system, but you also need someone to tell you like, "Hey, maybe it's not that good." Okay,
Right.
cool. Now, how do I grow from this? What's the issue? So I
Mhm.
think that's cool, and that you recognize that. So it's amazing that you have that support system, but it's also good that you recognize that so you don't get your heart broken when an industry professional goes, "Yeah, you got to change that." You
Right.
understand.
Critique
That's
it
really cool.
from top to bottom.
Right? I'll ask a happy question now. What has been the most valuable takeaway from this whole experience for you? Something that's helped you grow and improve as an artist?
I think just the biggest thing, just seeing other people's dreams come true. I'm like, my biggest thing was never really to be an artist. I don't care to be on the forefront like that. This is just mainly just for fun. If it takes off, it takes off. But my biggest goal in this and is to create a song or a string of songs that touch the world, like positive, uplifting songs that the world can. It just makes people feel great, and it has like a godly message in it essentially, and people just gravitate towards that. Like if I could write something like that and be known for that, like like I'm happy. Like I fulfilled what I wanted to do and what I've wanted to give to this world. So I think that's been the biggest thing that I've wanted to do, and I've been pushing. I've been writing different records on like how, like I listen to certain songs like "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston. That's a timeless record. You have
Timeless.
people, right? You have people like Mariah Carey. You've got all these songs that they had back in the day, and like "Don't Stop Believing" or "Won't Stop Believing" by I forget the name of the group, but you just have records like that. And my biggest thing is just creating classic records, because nobody's creating classic records anymore. They're creating what's good for TikTok, and those records essentially fizzle out. They'll be hot one minute, then they're not hot the next. So my biggest thing is just creating classic timepieces. So just something that you can be known for, but that touches the world in a positive way.
I love that. That's a great. I mean, it's you're leaving a part of yourself
Hmm.
out there, and you're happy with that. You're proud of that 'cause it's like, no, this was me, and others love it too. Cool, leaving your footprint out there for
Right.
others to see. I think that's really cool. So, Giovanna, what drives you to do all of this? What's your motivation?
I feel like knowing that this is bigger than me. I just started my LLC
Hey,
back in May. So I want to do things under that umbrella just to support creatives in the industry, keep them safe, be a safe haven for creatives. I want to eventually have a label. I want to branch out and direct indie films, because at the core of who I am a writer. So I have ideas for movie scripts and like faith based films. And I want to just dive into that. I've written like little a children's empowerment book for little girls.
well, that's so
And
cool.
so yeah, I've written that. I've just got to get the illustrate, just put it in a book form. It's the manuscript is written out, but
Well, hey, we can
there's
talk
some.
after this. I've got some great illustrators that would love to work with you.
Okay, we can do that. But yeah, that's probably been the biggest thing, is pushing the LLC, branching out into different things, branching out into authorship and the movie world. Um, really get my ideas together. I've been kind of slacking on it. Like I wrote like the beginning of the movie and it sounded so good that I had the idea for, but it's like structuring it because I've never written a script before. So I was researching like how to write scripts, how to, and essentially you don't
I know
have
that
to,
struggle.
right? You don't have to do it. There's people that can edit it for you and format it for you.
Yeah,
So
oh
it's
yeah.
it's just getting all the ideas down and writing it from top to bottom and making it sound like a story, something that people would want to hear, and then, get that part done. So that's been my big
Exactly.
thing, just focusing on uh that part of it, just branching out into other things besides artistry and music. Music still is gonna be a thing, but just doing more outside of that.
I like that your motivation is creating something bigger than yourself and wanting to share that with everyone else and to help the next person to be able to do that as well. I think that's awesome.
Mhm.
Um, You've shared a lot with us today. You've given some really great advice, some wonderful tips with the whole writing process and recording. But I want to ask you now, is there anything else that you would like to say to anyone out there that's looking to do what you do? Do you have any advice for a future singer songwriter?
Never give up. Never give up. I always say that, like, never give up, because you never know when your time is gonna come. You never know when there's gonna be opportunity. One of my prayers that I always pray is like, God, like, put me in place of opportunity, so when it comes, you know, everything will just fall into place. And I've had some great opportunities, but it's like there's so much more that I can do, that I can, that I can have access to. So I think that's the biggest thing. Never give up, and always place yourself in places for opportunity. Don't necessarily look for, I'm doing this for the money, or I want to be famous. But you do want to see the fruits of your labor, kind of flourish
Absolutely.
and do something, like you said, bigger than yourself. Like, you never know who it can touch, who it can inspire. So I would say, just, never give up. I think staying persistent, staying determined. Uh, like I said before, this is a sprint. I mean, this is a marathon, not a sprint. I mean, and like I said, you never know when your time is going to come. It could be 2 days from now, or it could be 10 years from now. Like Jelly Roll, as a good prime example, he's 39 and he
Hmm.
just took off. I mean, he's been doing his thing on the internet for years,
For
and
years.
he
Yeah.
took off on social media somewhat, but to be recognized on a national level, I believe at the CMT Awards, like, that's major. Like, most people in the internet world aren't respected at that level, but people are coming to respect more internet sensations, or internet social media stars, because they're working just as hard. That's,
Yep.
and content creation is becoming more of what celebrities are having to do anyway. So it's sort of blending the two worlds together anyway.
Yeah, we have enough celebrities hosting podcasts. Let's find them something else to do.
Right.
But I love what you said though. Like I could not have said that better. That's some wonderful advice, especially for anyone out there listening. And we have other friends of the show who have come on and said similar things. That staying, be persistent and stay consistent. I think that's great to hear. And it's something that you should apply, especially if you're going to be an artist, because as you've heard, there's ups and downs to everything. There's challenges. It's all trial and error. It's a repetitive thing on this show, but everyone's experience is different. Yet they're going to have those similar altercations that they're going to come across. So I really, really appreciate you being on today. And as we wrap this up, uh, I've already asked you, but I want to ask you again: is there anything else out there that you would like to share before we end this?
Yes. This touches on the being consistent, being persistent part. I've dabbled into talking about TikTok. Just a little intro before I get into what I'm going to say. There has been a surgence of short form content. It's all over everywhere, and I feel like it's not going away. We saw it with Vine, we saw it with Triller, we saw it with,
Mm-hmm.
and now TikTok, and now Instagram Shorts, or YouTube Shorts, and you have Instagram Reels. So short form content isn't going anywhere. So I would say, uh, do something for that realm, because you never know what could go viral. And then you've got songs that have been from the 80s and 90s, and people play them all the time on their videos, and that's a stream of income. That's something you could live off of, especially if you own your publishing, you own your masters. Doing an indie, you own everything essentially. So that can get your name out there. That, different, that's an avenue to take. So what I did want to mention was, I released a remix project to All Your Fault, in addition to the Afro mix. So it's got
Okay.
a house version, a EDM version, a reggae version, a pop version, and a Jersey club version. And I
Oh,
did
okay.
that just to have fun with it, just to add something different to the mix. And the crazy part about it was I personally love the Jersey Club mix. I thought that was the best one out of all of them. And people have gravitated towards the house and the EDM version, which is, it's the craziest, and really more so the EDM version. So it goes back to what people, when you talk to labels, they're always like, well, what can we do to promote on TikTok? What can we do to promote for short form content? And I've run into this with different labels. Like I've sent in records and they're like, well, we need something more upbeat. We need something more up tempo for this artist. And what that essentially means is they want a record that they can push for their artist on TikTok. Like that's what
Right.
that means, because everybody's about getting up and dancing and just doing something fun and interactive. So I would say, as an independent artist, never sleep on that side of it. Do something upbeat, even if you do more mellow stuff. Do like a sped up version. Do I forget what it's called. It's like uh, it's a slower version, but it's more of it's a type of version of a song that's really popular. It's like Screwed and something.
Okay.
I forget the name of it, but I would
I
say,
apologize. I'm no help.
right, it's okay. But if you have a single, put out different versions of that song and just keep pushing and plugging into it. You don't even have to put out an album. You don't have to put out an EP. I would say push that for the next 2 years, because people are coming out with records like Chris Brown, for example. He had Under the Influence. It came out in 2019 and it didn't get popular until 2021 off an album he put out 2 years ago. And that wasn't even a single that he pushed. That was just something that took off on social media. And then he
Yeah,
did a whole tour in Europe, because it went #1 in Europe. So I would say just never sleep on your old catalog. Just keep pushing it and
I like
plugging it
that.
into it.
That's awesome. No, it's great, and that's a concept that it's new to me. I wasn't even aware of that. But you're right, because I do see it a lot, especially when what music I do listen to. Sometimes it pops up and it's like a remix version. I'm like, oh, I didn't. Is this new? And it's like, yeah, it's new, but it's the same song just done differently. And sometimes they hit really well,
Mhm.
even for the stuff that I like. But yeah, I really, really appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us. I really appreciate the experience and just the perspective that you've given for what, being a singer and a songwriter and a beats creator, music producer, what it takes. I really appreciate that peek behind the curtain. Please promote yourself. How can we find you? How can we follow you and support you? Throw your social media out there. And of course, where can we listen to your music?
So my social media is Giavonna Official. So that is Giavonna, and then the word official, all one word. My most active profile is on Instagram, not really Twitter, not really Facebook. I'm not even on Twitter. I'm not even really on TikTok. I have a TikTok profile, but my most active page is on Instagram, and it's that Giavonna Official. You can find me on all streaming platforms at Giavonna, spelled the way it's spelled in my Instagram name. Um, yeah, so just look out for that.
Awesome. And of course, all links are in the show notes. If you're not sure, check out the show notes, click on those links, and they'll take you directly to Giovanna. Again, thank you so much today. I appreciate everything that you've done and shared with us. And of course, to the listeners out there, I hope you took away something really awesome from this conversation. I know that there was some great advice given. I've learned a few new things today, and I hope everyone else did. And until the next time, everyone, just stay golden. Thanks for tuning in. And if you like what you heard, please rate and review, like and subscribe. Every little bit helps. And as always, the theme music of the show is provided by the Ericka page. And our brand new graphic designs are all thanks to Quality Artworks. Links are in the show notes. Go support these amazing indie artists just like they support IPA Sessions. And of course, please follow us on social media. We have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. That's at IPA Sessions Podcast. And if you or someone you know is an independent artist looking to promote their work or just share their story with us, please hit me up at ipasessionspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again, everyone. And I hope you're able to find some inspirations for practical applications and entertainment.